So in this very lesson, we want to learn how angles are being formed and then the types of angle. So let me ask you, what is an angle? Angles are formed when two straight lines meet or intersect at a common point called the vertex. Let's look at the geometrical interpretation to this explanation of angles. We are saying that angles are formed when two straight lines meet or intersect at a common point called the vertex. So let's say that this is my line 1, and then I also have another line. Let's call it line 2. Now the moment line 1 and line 2 intersect at this very point, angles are formed. An angle is formed here, an angle is also formed here, and then an angle is also formed beneath here. The point of their intersection is what we refer to as what? The vertex. And then this is the angle formed between line 1 and then line 2. So we are saying that an angle is formed when two straight lines meet at a common point called the vertex. Similarly, when you have, let's say, a vertical line meeting a horizontal line at this very point, which is called the vertex, angles are being formed. An angle is formed here, an angle is formed here, and then an angle is also formed at this very part. So this is how angles are being formed. Now let's look at the unit of measurement for angles. Unit of measurement for angles. Now angles are measured in degrees. They are also measured in radians. And then we have gradians. But for the purpose of today's lesson, we are going to use the degree as our unit of measurements. Now the degree is denoted with a small 0, which is written as a superscript to the measure of the angle. So let's take it that after measuring the size of this angle, and then this angle is what? 45. Since we are using the degree as our unit of measurement, we are going to write it as 45 degrees. Similarly, when you have an angle which its measure is equal to 90, since we are using the degree as our unit of measurement, we are going to write it as 90 with a small superscript of 0. And this is read as what? 90 degrees. So this is how angles are being formed with each unit of measurement. We'll be looking at examples of angles being formed within our environment. There are countless examples of angles formed within our environment, and I'm going to give you a few of them. I'm going to start with my body. Now, if I stretch my arm like this, as I begin to bend my arm towards my body, an angle is formed. The angle is formed between this part of my arm and then this part of my arm. So this is where the angle is formed. An angle is formed between the hour hand and then the minute hand of a clock. So let's take that is our clock. We have 12, 6, 3, and then 9. Let's take that is our hour hand and then this our minute hand. An angle is formed between the hour hand and then the minute hand of a clock. An angle is also formed at the edges of a book. So when you have a book, this is one part of the book, this is another part of the book, they meet at these very joints, an angle is also created here. There are countless examples of angles being formed within our environment. Just list a few of them. Now let's move on to types of angles. Another types of angle, we shall be looking at what? The acute angle. So when we talk about an acute angle, we are referring to an angle whose measure is always less than 90 degrees, or it is an angle which is between 0 and then 90 degrees. Let's use the theta to represent our angle. So we are going to have and that is what acute angle. So examples of acute angles we have 1 degree, it is an acute angle. We have 10 degrees, it is also an acute angle. We have 40 degrees, 70 degrees, 89 degrees, and so on. These and many more are examples of acute angle. Now let's move on to the next type of angle, which is called the right angle. Now when we talk about a right angle, it is an angle whose measure is equal to 90 degrees. So we have its measure is equal to what? 90 degrees. And it is mostly represented with this symbol. So when you have an angle with this very symbol, then this should tell us that this angle is a right angle and its measure is equal to 90 degrees. No matter how the angle is being drawn, so let's take it like this. The moment you see this very symbol, this should tell you that this angle is a right angle and it measures exactly 90 degrees. Now let's look at the next type of angle, which is the obtuse angle. Now when we talk about an obtuse angle, it is an angle whose measure is between 90 degrees and then 180 degrees. Examples of obtuse angle, we can talk of 100 degrees angle, we can also talk of 150 degrees angle, we can talk of 160 degrees, we can talk of 95, and so on. These and many more are examples of obtuse angle. It lies between 90 and then 180 degrees. Now let's look at the next one, which is called the straight line angle. Now when we talk about a straight line angle, it is an angle whose measure is equal to 180 degrees. So let's take it that these are straight line and an angle is formed here. The angle formed on this very straight line is equal to 180 degrees and this angle is called the straight line angle. Let's look at the next type of angle. Now when we talk about reflex angle, it is an angle whose measure is between 180 and then 360 degrees. So it is between what? 180 and then 360 degrees. So when you have an angle of this very form, the angle formed at this very part is what we refer to as what? The reflex angle. And this angle is between 180 and then 360 degrees. So let's look at the last one, which is called angle at a point. Now when we talk about angle at a point, it is an angle whose measure is exactly 360 degrees. Now angle at a point is also referred to as the sum of interior angle of a circle. So this is angle at a point, which is also known as what? The interior angle of a circle. So these are the types of angles that we have. Now I'm going to give you some small activity. We have to classify the following angles under the types of angles that we have. So this brings us to the end of today's lesson. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.